Welcome, everybody. It's time once again for the next chapter with Charlie Hedges as he explores turning the page on his life and yours. Hey, Charlie.
Hey, Paul. We all love the stories of gritty and tenacious people that go from breadlines to headlines. And that is the story of our special guest today, Roger Smith. From the ages of 15 to 35 in the world of work, Roger was what is called a very high-functioning drug addict. However, eventually he discovered that although the Wolf of Wall Street lifestyle was good for a while, it inevitably became unsustainable, and eventually he found himself rock bottom, thinking about taking his life. Today, however, Roger has become for many of us that light at the end of the tunnel. There is hope for the lost, the self-destructive, the addict, and the homeless. Roger's life demonstrates what a person can do with a vision, compiled productivity, and an unwavering commitment to caring about the people he works with and the ones that work for him. Now, as it turns out, our histories, Roger and I, have many things in common, and I can't wait to chat for a while about how Roger Smith moved from rock bottom to rock star CEO. So with that, let's bring Roger on the show. Roger Smith, welcome to the next chapter with Charlie.
Thank you, Charlie. Thank you for having me on your show. It's an honor, and I appreciate it.
Thank you. I'm very interested in our conversation because, as all our listeners know, I chat with my guests beforehand, and I felt a camaraderie that we have so many similar experiences. Although I was not Rockstar CEO, I was measly consultant to you guys. I was your executive coach. You know what I used to call myself, Roger? Instead of, back in the day, I've been doing executive coaching since the mid-90s. And so I realized when I started working in the C-suite that I was no longer truly a consultant or a coach. My role was partner in thought, and that I would.
There you go.
I would work with the CEO, and collaboratively, we would come up with ideas that were good for the company, and I still like that idea of partner in thought, and I take that into many of my situations rather than being the advice giver to say let's have dialogue about this and figure out where we're going. So. That was my...
Well, it's probably a good thing, Charlie, because a lot of times it's hard to have, honest dialogue. And when you can have some dialogue with somebody who really will tell you like it is and advise you and so on, that's really a good thing.
Yeah, it is helpful. And that way, the CEO that I'm working with, has plenty of say, and there's room for disagreement, for challenges. What are we going to do next? It was really helpful. But what I want to talk about is I want to go back to the beginning of something I said in the introduction, and I think our listeners probably don't even know about what we called a high-functioning drug addict. People are thinking a drug addict is out of work, on the streets, doing whatever they need to do. But as you and I both know, because we both had almost a full decade until it started dwindling toward the end, as it inevitably does, a high-functioning addict. Where drugs and alcohol were just part of our lifestyle. We could live that. And then we could come, like Leo DiCaprio, we could come in and be the heroes of the company. You know what I'd like for you to describe for us? Can you tell our listeners what a high-functioning addict is?
Well, for me, I will tell you that from the ages of 15 to 20, I wasn't a high-functioning addict. I was, a kid on the streets type thing. But once I started to get into business, then, I was the number one salesperson, I was the number one leader, all of those things. And what it really means, at least for me, is it meant that I could work, that I could put on the facade that I was very successful, and I did have great success. Unfortunately, as you said, it wasn't sustainable, and I would build it up and break it down and build it up and destroy it, and that type of thing. But it wasn't where I was hitting rock bottom and then couldn't function. Would be out of work for 6 months or a year and then get back. It was, I went to work every day. I may have been going to work hungover. But
like every day.
Yeah, it's almost like, the bad part about it is you can work really hard and you can play really hard, and it's just it wreaks such havoc on your mind and your body. It's like, I wish I hadn't been a functioning addict, right?
Of course, but but that says something, that you still have these innate talents in the area of leadership that still came out, that you were still able to use in the workforce, that was hampered, and as you discovered later in your great success, that it was a roadblock to the success that you wanted to have.
Right. It was like, okay, well, you can fool people some of the time, but eventually it comes home to roost.
Oh.
And that's what would happen in the situation.
And, like you, I experienced it for a full decade. Until the end of the decade, it started being clear, and the place I was working started seeing there were holes in my productivity. I was making some mistakes, and I was not as, I would be more concerned with my party life than I would with my work life. And so it became very, very distracted. But I was high functioning. I probably got 3 significant promotions, one that ended up to general manager of a carpet mill, and that was during my highly productive, functioning drug addict state.
Mm-hmm.
It was just weird, but you're the one that gave me the word sustainability. It just, at one day, it comes up to catch you and gets you.
Yeah, for me, like I said, I would build at that point. I wasn't an executive. I was running my own insurance agency for the company that I eventually would become the CEO. One of the companies that I would become the CEO, and I'd build up this agency, I'd recruit salespeople, I'd train them, but eventually the drugs would find their way into the workplace, and then rumors would start up that I was doing drugs there, and there were other people doing drugs there, and then it would kind of, just implode, and then I would start up a new agency, a new operation in another state. And I just kept on moving around, but the same issues, the same problems just kept on popping up over and over and over again, because I was an addict. It's not like it was going to change.
Yeah, it's not going to change. So what was it? What was the rock bottom that made you say, I need to make a change in my life, and I've got, you recognize your potential. I've got potential to do so many things, and I'm putting my life in a tailspin. What was it? Was there any instance or circumstance or revelation that led you to say, I got to, I'm done with this. I've got to be done with these drugs and alcohol?
So I think what happened for me is I had this inner picture of myself, just an old man, drug addict, homeless. That was my picture. That's obviously not the one that I conveyed, but it is the one that deep down inside that nobody else could see. That's the one that that I had of myself. And I remember I was living in a little cottage in Malibu, and I literally was on all fours looking for a sliver of crack cocaine, and had been on all fours for hours looking, not minutes, but hours just looking. And then I just thought, you know what, if this is where I'm going to end up, this is what my life's about, if this is where I'm going to end up, I don't want to live anymore. I don't see a reason for it. And I walked downstairs and I walked into the ocean, and, you know, all I can say, I don't know how to describe it, but just to say, you know, that I was blessed, that it was a blessing, that I didn't drown myself, that I walked back out, and I went into rehab the following day. And it's not like at that time, you know, 35 years ago, it's not like there were rehabs all over the place like there is today.
Right.
You really had to search one out and find it. So, yeah, at that point, I was like, I can't do this anymore. It's got to change. And if I'm not going to die, then the only other alternative is change who I am and what I'm doing.
That's a reckoning that must occur with all of us that have any kind of proclivity for addictive behavior, and so many of us do. It is so common. So you went to a rehab. One visit to a rehab, was that like a 30-day session or something?
Yeah.
And it is so, in my experience with addictions, one visit to a rehab rarely turns a person around. So you went into it serious, and you went into it with a goal in mind and dedicated change. So that because, you know, I wonder, of all the people that are in your rehab group, how many people became sober after that one experience? I bet very few.
And I know the statistics aren't good, that's for sure. You know what, I was just so fearful of ever going back. I just didn't ever want to go back. And I was willing to do anything and everything that people were telling me that I should do and how to do it, and giving me tools to use, and making up, you know, tools on my own. I think I told you, like when, you know, I got out of rehab, if I put on my left shoe first, I was going to put on my right shoe first. If I brushed my teeth, you know, with my left hand, I was going to do it with my right hand. Whatever I had been doing for the past 20 years, the smallest of habits, I needed to change that, because I was so fearful that these habits would lead me right back to my addiction.
Yeah. And, you know, I think fear has a lot to do with it, because once we recognize that we are in a hole and there's no getting out of that hole without self-effort. I'm a real strong advocate, especially in the beginnings. I'm a real strong advocate of 12-step groups. I think, you know, when you have peers and high productive peers, you know, that have faced the same thing, it really is helpful. Now you talk about that. I really like this, and then and then after this I want to move on to your business. But you talk about the one thing that you were able to use is that it seems to me that you're sort of an energy-driven person, and that you talk about energy and how the energy required to maintain an addiction, because you got to be good. You get really good at lying and hiding and cheating, you know.
Yeah.
And you found a way to transfer or transform that negative energy into positive energy. So you took the energy that you naturally have, which, you know, as we've spoken, is quite evident, and you took that into a positive situation. Can you tell me about that?
Well, you know, I mean, it's exactly what you said, Charlie. We, as an addict, there's so much energy that is expended on feeding your addiction and all the stuff that goes around it. And then all of a sudden, when you become sober, it's not like you don't have that energy anymore. You have the same energy. And for me, then it just became a matter of channeling that energy into productive, positive things, goals, what I wanted to achieve. Because then I actually started to believe, well, wait a second, I could achieve something and it can be sustainable. I could achieve something and even grow on top of that and it be sustainable. And once I realized that, and once I kind of changed that inner picture of myself, then it was really just applying all that energy that I'd been using in the wrong way, and now just applying that energy in a positive way.
That's that's a fantastic insight.
You still have that energy, so just move forward.
So the negative energy doesn't dissipate. You're rechanneling that energy to something that is good, and so you obviously have a high degree of energy with all that you have done. And so I'm curious. I want to sort of move on.
Charlie, it wasn't like I was gonna work any less. It was going to be, I was going to work as hard as I was working on the negative side. I was just going to do it positively.
Yeah, and probably more intentionally because you weren't distracted. That's the thing of the addiction. It distracts, and it takes, as you said, it takes so much energy and it takes so much effort to maintain that, to hide that, to be able to come to work with hangovers every day. It is difficult. I want to talk about your business because your business is so incredible. But I want to start with this question. As you were beginning to build up your business acumen and high levels of productivity, I'm wondering, when did you realize that you had what I'm calling CEO genes? You knew you could be productive, but when did you know you could be a leader of an organization? What was that all about?
That is so funny because, I tell people, I said, listen, if you're thinking that you're just going to wait till you're ready, I said, you're never ready. So I literally remember it had to have been the first 2 or 3 months. And I had taken over, and the senior vice president was asking me questions, and I was going, listen, I don't have a clue. You just keep doing what you were doing, and let me get my hands on this and learn this. And I remember at that time thinking, man, if I had any stock in this company, I'd sell it today because I don't have a clue of what I was doing. But I do know that I was willing to work as hard and harder than anybody else around me to do it. I learned early on, and especially with the obstacles in front of me, education, all of that if it was easy, everybody would have it. So for me, no matter what I did, I was going to have to work really hard at it. Maybe there are some natural born salespeople. Maybe there are naturally born leaders, naturally born CEOs. But I was none of those. Everything I did was learned behavior. I tell the story that when I started in sales, they teach you that, you get to your closing line and then you be quiet. You use your clothesline, you shut up, and whoever talks first is the one that's going to buy. And I would get so nervous, literally so nervous, Charlie, that the back of my neck would start to shake, and I literally thought that the clients were thinking I was having some type of seizure. I mean, that's how bad a salesperson I was. And yet, at the end of the year, I was the number one salesperson. So, it just goes to show you that you don't have to be ready for it. You just have to be willing to put in the work that it's going to take for you to learn it. Even as a CEO, I mean, I would go into, board meetings and there'd be, talk and financial spreadsheets and so on. And I felt like literally a fifth grader in school who doesn't know how to read. It was like, well, do I really deserve to be here type thing? But I also understood that, okay, this is my cross to bear. This is what I'm going to have to work, a week before to understand it before the board meeting, where other people could just walk in and they look at it and they know exactly what it is. So, it's like we're all going to have things that we're not good at or it's harder for us to do, but that just gives us the challenge to work harder at it and overcome it. So I don't know if I actually answered your question or if I went in a circle on that.
No, you did. You addressed my question, but I still have the belief that there's a combination of nurture and nature that I believe not everybody is gifted with the leadership talent. Not it's common among books on Amazon now, become the leader within you. Well, some are just not gifted with that ability, and you, with your success in at least 2 to 3 different businesses, there is something you have. So I'm wondering, before you became on track for CEO and high-level executive management, I imagine you had high-functioning teams and people that trusted you and would work with you.
I did, though I'm not sure why. I tell the story. I read John Maxwell's book, The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership.
Mm-hmm.
And after I read it, I closed it, and I thought, man, I broke every law. I don't even know if it's possible to break every law of leadership, but I did. But what you're saying is valid, because I wanted to learn. And I do think that, I did have a natural amount of charisma. I cared about people's success. They knew I cared about them. They wanted to follow me. And I think that, there's certain characteristics of leadership that you have to have in order to be a great leader.
And that is so true. You know what I'd like to do is it's time for us to take a break, and I would like to take a brief break, and then I want to come back and I want to discuss your views on leadership that you have, in your book, The Most Unlikely Leader. You really fleshed that out, and we want to talk about that book.
Right.
But I think that qualities of leadership are qualities that you don't have to be a leader. A team member, these qualities that you define are qualities that impact all of us, no matter our position in a company. That if we were to follow these, we could get on that success-driven track. And in your model, it's all about caring for people, and I love that. So let's take a brief break, and we'll come back and we'll explore those concepts.
Okay.
Hi there, this is Charlie Hedges, and you're listening to The Next Chapter with Charlie and my very special guest, Roger Smith, who is CEO of at least 2 companies. but his route getting there was an everyday human route that was filled with trials and self-destructive behaviors that Roger was able to overcome, and then become this fabulous CEO. I mean, I can say that because I looked up his book on Amazon, and there are dozens of reviews. Every review is a 5. And I've never seen a book that did that. So you did something right. And I want to talk about your views on leadership. Now, there are several different things I read. You have, 3 key decisions that leaders need to make to turn around their business. And you have the 4 characteristics of leadership. I would like to talk about what you think it takes to be a good leader. And I also want to emphasize that does not have to be your title. You can be a team member and a profound leader without being the manager of that team. And the principles that you are going to describe really help everybody. So talk to me about that.
I mean, for that matter, there could be the way you're leading your family or a volunteer someplace. I mean, all of these things are real important. But I do think that, I think that leaders are visionaries. I think that's so important that they see further than other people. And when I was a kid in school, it was like my teacher would, put down, well, Roger tends to daydream a lot. Now I sit there and say, hey, listen, if you're not spending 45 minutes, an hour of your day daydreaming, then you're not leading. You're not looking at the what can be and how can we make this better and how can we make this bigger and what can we do to change the world. I think that influence is the key, because I could have this grand vision, but if nobody wants to follow me, then it's just me alone with that vision. And so when it comes to influence, I think there's 2 key things. Number one is that if I want to influence you, I need to show you results. I need to show you why something works for you to follow me. And if I can't show you how it works and why it works for your favor, then you're not going to follow me. You're not going to be influenced by
right.
it. So results are key in there, but married to results is that you really, really, really have to care. It's like you take this responsibility on your shoulders to provide the best opportunity for success, for the family to have that success. That's your responsibility. And you got to care about the person. And I don't mean care because of the way it makes you look. I'm talking about really, really caring about that individual and their family. And when you really care about somebody, you don't let them walk in the wrong direction. I love my kids when they were young. I'm not going to let them walk out into the middle of the street, right? Because I really, really care about them. I'm not going to let them get hurt. And it's the same thing as a leader. I'm not going to let them walk out into traffic. I'm going to try to guide them as best I can so that they have a safe venture and that they're able to find the successes, because that's what they're looking to me for. And so therefore it's my responsibility.
I absolutely love that idea, because vision, many times when we think of CEO and a vision, it's all about dollar signs. And it's all about sales. It's about revenue and picking up business. And today, in today's culture, now a lot is written about it, but I'm not sure how many companies actually implement it. But we are talking about workplace environment? And is this a pleasant, helpful, learning place to work? Or is this just, grinding you out? I work for a very large company that I won't say the name of. It's a hugely successful company, and they're an engineering company. And they just strictly demanded, because they had a vision that was amazing, and if I told you the vision, you know who the company is. But it's a worldwide vision, of helping the world. But
Right.
the CEO demanded that the people work 12 to 14 hours a day, and that they work 6 days a week and be prepared to work 7. Many of the people so believed in the vision, because the vision was extraordinary, but they were just so burnt out and so tired, and it was it has been sustainable, but I don't know how. I think one of the things is he pays more than anybody else, so
Yeah.
so
Well-
people take up live with that.
Yeah, but I'll tell you, this new generation is different. It's really different. It's about lifestyle. It's about people will definitely move around or move out in that company, because it's a different vision for young people today.
You know what I was thinking, Roger, is that I know you agree, because I'm looking at your principles, and we kind of chatted about this, but leadership is not a right, and high level people, your title, unless something is done, your title CEO often only means that your employees fear you, and that I wrote that sucks.
That really you wrote it out well. That's
Yeah,
horrible.
So what you need to do, what I think leaders, not just CEOs and VPs and C-suite people and the executive suite people, but managers at all level, it is essential, and I just don't hear it taught much, but you must earn the right for people to follow you. It does not come with a title, and it does not come with all of those other things. And one of the ways to earn it is your belief in caring about people. That, the old trite saying, is that people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And if you can show, like what you said, and I love your two ideas, that you must be productive to show that you're good at business, that I will follow you because you can make the business really strong. But there is that also that earns respect of people. But if you don't care for them as individuals, if you treat them as objects of compliance or objects of productivity, and that is it, you're not going to really touch any generation, and in this new generation is just not going to buy that at all.
I often wondered, like, what happens when somebody gets a promotion, they move up, they have a new title, and it just becomes about power. They literally forget where they came from. And the best leaders that I know are ones that they're humble, they have their humility. I mean, they don't forget where they came from. And so because of that, they understand people's fears, and they understand, what it's like when people are just starting off, and they're able to have empathy, and they're able to have compassion. And that's just so important.
Absolutely. I
might say, Charlie, I might also say just the other two things that are just really important.
Oh, okay, good.
Is really important that a leader that you have strong systems, that if you were all of a sudden out of the picture for 4 weeks, that it wouldn't crumble. You always hear about companies where the leader, dies or retires, whatever, and the company falls apart. And it's because the systems that are in play are not strong enough to withstand, the opposition that comes across it. So you just have to have strong systems in there. And more importantly than having the system is that you have to be willing to inspect the system. I always tell people, don't have a system that you're not willing to inspect. And a lot of times, people will play that to you and they'll go, well, wait, you don't trust me? And it has nothing to do. It has nothing to do with personal. It has nothing to do with your trust of a person. It's just your trust in your system, and you know that if they follow that system, that they're going to have success. So therefore, I'm going to inspect that the system is being done correctly in the way that it's supposed to have, so that you have your success. And I think if you have all those things connected, then you got a pretty good framework for a good leader.
I like that a lot. But you know what? I am curious. How would you define? Can you give me a tangible example of a system? What is a system that you might employ and people would follow?
Okay, so like I know let's say in the sales part, that if a salesperson follows the presentation and gives, let's say, 6 presentations in a day, that they're going to close 2 out of those 6. And if they close 2 out of that 6, then I know financially that they're making a good living if they're doing that, 5 days a week, let's say. So I know this system works. It works in LA.
This is your sales system, right?
Right.
Your
it
sales
works
system.
In Alabama,
okay.
It works in Canada, and it works in New Zealand. We have offices all over. So I know it's a blueprint, and that system works. And so if I can have somebody follow the system, I know that they have a really good chance of being successful. And now I've got to inspect that system and look over those appointments and make sure that they went on the appointments. I may have to sit there and say, hey, listen, I want you to give me your presentation. I want to make sure you're on track, that you haven't, changed any part of it. So I have a system of success, and now I'm going to inspect that system to make sure that it's being followed.
I love what you just said, but my producer reminded me, I haven't even asked you what business you're in, so people don't even know what business you're in.
And actually, Charlie, I'm retired. So I retired 5 years ago, or just about 5 years ago. But before that, I was in the insurance business. So I was the CEO of 3 actually life insurance companies.
Were they separate, or did they merge?
There was a holding company who is very well known, and they held like 5 insurance companies, and so I was CEO of 3 of those companies.
My goodness!
And each one had its own different type of marketing system, and each was its own very separate entity.
Thank you. You know what I would like to explore as our time is nearing an end. I would like to explore just a bit and go back to your days of addiction. And during that days of addiction and our experiences at the bottom, I say our experiences because all of our listeners know that that I am an alcoholic addict and in the recovery process for a couple decades, but it's still a very strong part of my life. And for me, my experiences at the bottom of lack of self-worth, lack of confidence, and in certain things, high confidence in some area and low confidence in another. One of the things that helped me is it provided me with insight into the human condition, into the brokenness of people and the needs of people, like caring and love and empathy and support, how essential those are for people who are broken. Did you find your experiences at the bottom, did they provide insight into that broken and needy human condition for you?
I think that they heightened my sense of empathy. It was like, and that's why I was always, wanted to give people second or third chances, because if I didn't get second and third chances, who knows where I would have been. People saw in me things that I sure couldn't have seen myself. And so if I understand that well, then I understand that there are people out there, just like you said, that are broken, that have no confidence in themselves, and that experience allows me to be open to look into them and to be able to see the things that they can't see themselves, and to let them know that I have faith in you, even if you don't. I see something in you, even though you may not see it. And, quite often, I think part of me, that where I kept on striving, was that people saw something in me that I couldn't see myself, and I kept on going, okay, well, if they see something in me, then maybe there is something there. Maybe I do have it, And so I think that's just that part of giving back and looking for the best in people. And I think that we get that because we saw the worst in ourselves. Unfortunately,
that is so true, and it's true for me today, because I continue to be a very broken individual, and I can access my brokenness and my things that I want to change in life that help me understand other people, make me much more compassionate, much more willing to wait and to provide encouragement rather than retribution.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's great, John.
Let's wrap up with this. And I am really, I've read bits and pieces, but I'm really curious about your new book. I like this, The Most Unlikely Leader. Can give us an idea of what that's about and how that will benefit readers.
The whole title is The Most Unlikely Leader, An Unbelievable Journey from GED to CEO. I think we get into places in our life where we're just stuck. And I wrote this book, and I wrote this memoir as well as some business principles, just to show people that, even if you think the deck is stacked against you, and it may be, that even if all those things are true and you're stuck, all of that you can still overcome that you can still, get all the good stuff out of life that you want to get. And my story is the epitome of that. It's the epitome of resilience and perseverance and overcoming obstacles and all of the above. So, whether you're in a place in your life that you're just stuck and don't know how to get out of, or if you're a place in your life where, you're thinking, man, so what can I learn in leadership? I think with my book, you can get both out of it, hopefully.
Well, I highly recommend it because it's an old saying from mine that I heard decades ago, going from breadlines to headlines, and that certainly is you. And I've titled the show something that I found written in one of your pieces that I love, and it says, from rock bottom to rock star CEO. I think that's a great line. That's a great line. Roger Smith, you are a very impressive man, and you know your kindness, your gentleness, and your devotion to excellence just ring loudly in your personality. It doesn't feel like just words. It feels like this is who you are in your heart. I love that.
Thank you so much, Charlie. I appreciate that.
And I will have a link to your book that people can check out your book at Amazon, and that will be in the show notes. Once again, thank you so much for being on the show.
Okay, thank you, Charlie.
I want to thank all our listeners for tuning in to The Next Chapter with Charlie, and check us out at our website, thenextchapter.life. And as usual, until next, this is Charlie Hedges signing off. Bye for now.